Welcome back, everyone. If you're new to the channel, I'm Charlie, and it's about debunking or getting rid of the nonsense in your mediumship. Let's just make it easy and get the ball rolling and communication up and running without all the rituals, etc. In this segment, I've invited people to ask their questions, and I will answer them as plainly as I can. And then from there, hopefully you take something from it and implement it in your own mediumship. Therefore, your mediumship is better. So much easier that way. Can't stand the weather at the moment. Although it is, I don't mind the winter time of year. It's this bit where I'm stuck indoors because it's raining out there and it's cold and it's gloomy, and I kind of want to be walking and talking and inspirational, but it is what it is, and I'll need a new dynamic soon because I'm getting bored with this one. And we'll get the music and the effects back in. But for the meantime, this is the backlog, and this is the viewers' questions bit that I'm answering. So in this one, we have another question come in. I'll flick it on the screen for you so you can see that I don't send them to myself. And we'll answer it the best way that we can. So this one is on presentation, maybe do's and don'ts when it comes to sit-ins and dems. Should my sitter see me communicate with spirit, saying things like, okay, slow down, or telling spirit, thank you, or that type of, or the type of language we should use when speaking about the evidence, not using energy or spirit to talk about them? And again, another good question, one that I feel very strongly about, so maybe as a disclaimer so I don't offend anyone, which I probably will at some point in this video. In my opinion, I don't think, or I do think, will be this perspective on this video. So for me, I don't like it when we talk. I call that talking out of the box. You know, all right, I'll tell him. That kind of thing. I don't like that. Or slow down, you're going too fast. Because what it does immediately is, to someone new to mediumship, they see it as like, oh wow, that is amazing, he can actually see them, or she can actually see them and actually talk to them, and you lead them into a false sense of security. They will now just gravitate to you until they learn otherwise. They're like, wow, this is amazing. And what I've tried to get across on the channel and in my mediumship, it's a state of consciousness. It's the expression of that consciousness, the intelligence of that consciousness that lives on. The body doesn't. The body we cremate, or the body we bury at a graveyard, and the conscious state of that person then lives on. So we almost trick the client into believing that they have walked in their suit or whatever it is, and yeah, okay mate, I'll tell them, and then go from there. So it gives them the wrong idea immediately. Now what will happen is, if that person chooses to go on to develop or sit for spirit, they're waiting for it to be that way. And it doesn't happen in that way. So it can cause a lot of problems for the development of the individual, or the understanding for that individual to progress in their own conscious state, in the understanding of the spirit world. So in my opinion, never talk out of the box. What I know why some people do it. I know a fantastic medium from the UK that does it, talks the mechanic out of the box. So okay, I need to ask them this, and then they'll ask, and then they'll get the answer, and they'll be correct. And so what they're doing is they're keeping themselves occupied to get the answer that is required. Again, I just think it looks a little bit unprofessional. I personally don't like seeing it. And then you've got the far end of what's going on. Now, I know there will be people in the US that do that. Unfortunately, I just don't know the names of the US mediums. We've got I know about James Van Prague, or John Edward, you know, or Tyler Henry. I know about those ones. I don't really know their work, and I don't really want to know their work. But here in the UK, we have a couple of mediums that spring to mind that speak out of the box, and there is a very famous one that does that, that will talk to his guide very openly, like he's having a conversation with him, for everyone to witness. Now, the guide, as I've expressed across the channel, is a very personal thing for me and my guide, for the medium and the guide. It's a very personalised relationship, and they will do what is required within the avatar to get you to express. And there are many, many videos on the channel of me discussing this. So I don't need to showboat it or showcase it in any way. It's just for me to start expressing the communication. So me personally, I don't like any kind of talking out of the box in the presentation value of mediumship. I just don't. For me, it just devalues the communication. So I know that sounds really blunt. I apologise in advance if I am offending anyone. I just don't like it myself. The conversation and the mechanics can all take place in the mind, and you can do the showmanship aspects in another way, in my opinion. Now, the viewer also asked about how do I address the energy or the spirit that turns up, and if we are working correctly, we will say things like, I have a gentleman join me, and as this gentleman joins me, he makes me aware of, and then the communication will go. So I would address that as the gentleman in this example. A lot of the time when I'm working, I will be, right, I'm aware that I have your husband here. And so then every time that I address that gentleman, I will say, and your husband makes me aware, and your husband shows me, your husband tells me, your husband, that's the label, the husband. In a very rare occasion, not all of the time, but maybe once a dem, maybe, I will have the name of the communicator. So, and as I'm working here with David, I'm working with a gentleman here, and he makes me aware that the name David is very pronounced within his energy or his communication. I believe that this is his name, and then the rest of his evidence, and the hand will go up, and they'll say, yes, that's my son, my mate, my cousin, my uncle, my father, whatever, as David. And so then I will say, now David makes me aware, David shows me, David tells me, David, I use it with whatever I've earned through the communication. And what I mean by what I've earned is that I've expressed it. So if I express the relationship, then I'll use that as the label. If I've expressed the name, then I will use that as the label. If I haven't expressed it, then it will be the lady, the woman, the man, the gentleman, shows me, until my communication indicates otherwise. But I never use the terms energy or spirit, I don't believe. I'm just racking my brain to see if that's something I've done. And maybe I have done it, but if I have noticed it, then I've adjusted it in accordance for the dem. Again, it just devalues it for me. I've seen people do things like, and now as the spirit joins me from the white light, I can feel that the spirit, and then away you go, and you're like, oh my God, here we go. How long have I got to go before I can get out of here? And the same with energy, the word energy in that sense. As the energy joins me, the energy shows me, it's just not my style. And I think a lot of it is down to presentation. I run a Zoom class very recently, and I spoke a lot about the mechanics of this. And the mechanic is no different. So whoever it is that you absolutely love, that's a medium of choice for you, they receive the information no differently. They get the information no differently. They've just learned to unravel it. They've learned to present it. They've learned to pause when it needs to pause, and get a little bit more when they need a little bit more. But they receive it in exactly the same way. The only difference there is your mind, the way that your mind is going to work with it. The sooner you understand that, the quicker your mediumship will evolve and be to the best of your capability much sooner, allowing you to get better and better and better. So again, thank you for the question. I'm going to wrap it up there, I think, and try and walk to the shop or something, get out and just move around, just because I hate being locked away like that. So we'll call it a day there. So like the video if you liked it, comment obviously, because that helps the channel really, really well. Subscribe if you aren't already, and click that little notification bell on the side there to be notified of the next video, and I will see you all in that next video. Thanks for watching.